Hello and welcome to The Loop with Sloop, where I'm your host, BrmdSloop, and today is the second episode of the Learning the Web series. What this is basically going over HTML design, trying to get you your first website up and built. Alright, so what we're doing now is we are going to be breaking our lesson into three separate parts today. The first one is going to be learning how to order your HTML doc. We talked a little bit about that in the last episode, but we'll kind of expand on that. Secondarily, we will go into an intro to displaying content on your website, just talk a little bit about that, and then move on to talk about HTML tag attributes. So you can kind of see an overview of what we got going on right in here. Alright, I'm going to hop back over to the document that we created in the last episode. It's just a very simple and basic thing. So first thing that we're going to talk about is the ordering of your HTML document. There was an important tag that I sort of kind of forgot about in the last episode, which is kind of important, and I'm going to just put it in right here. This is the doc type tag. If I could actually write. What this does is it ensures that the browser understands that this is an HTML document. You need that. The code that I've written here is for HTML5. You won't need to know the difference, but just be aware that it is. Once we start getting a little deeper, you'll start to understand the differences. Secondarily, it's also important to ensure and start thinking, at least in some ways, about the browser and how search engines are going to be looking at the actual page itself. This is why I think it's definitely important for us to look at the HTML language tag. Now, the HTML language tag is something that basically just tells the browser what type of language this website is in. Now, I know that seems sort of obvious. Well, it's in English. Well, you have to understand that the internet is a universal thing. Putting this kind of tag ensures that browsers and search engines understand what language it is and knows how to categorize it. This is just something that you should start thinking about as you start going on. And this one tag is just a demonstration of that. As we go on, we'll start to develop that as well. Thirdly, I would also like to talk about inline versus block elements. Now, inline is something that is going to make sense as we talk about. When we start to display content, there are two different ways in which we display that. First, the inline. When we actually have text that is written in a line, and we have a tag that only applies to things inside of a line, which this will make sense in just a minute when we actually start talking about this, but this is the bold tag here. I've talked about this earlier, but what this tag does is it just makes these few letters bolded. It doesn't push the other ends down like a block element would. Rather, it has a single portion and it fits in a single line, and it's designed to fit in line. That's where the word actually comes from. Block elements are something that are entirely different. Block elements are something like the like the p tag for paragraph. After the end of that, when it's displayed to the actual user, what happens is this will pop down in the end content. That makes it a block element. You can change that if you desire, but it's important to understand that in the development of it before we actually talk about content. And we'll do that here in this next section, which coincidentally is an introduction to displaying content. Now, there are many ways that we can display content, many different tags that we can ultimately utilize. However, we're going to start on the most basic here. First, talking about commenting. Now, commenting is done by this tag here. It uses it uses the less than sign, an exclamation point, and two dashes. You end it by having two dashes and a greater than sign. Now, what happens in here is you have stuff that you can put. These are just notes to yourself, and it's important to start getting in the habit of leaving these notes to yourself to tell you what things do, because when you start getting larger documents and you have complex tags, you don't always remember where stuff is, and you also don't necessarily remember what everything was supposed to do. Having these comments inside of your code is extremely important, and it is meant only for your benefit. The browser is told to ignore these because of this little intro tag here. This tag tells it that it's a commented out thing, and thus we can put anything that we want inside of there and not have it displayed actually on the content. So this is important for ordering your content as well. Now, let's move on to the first main tag I think that we're going to really look at here, which is going to be the p tag. Now, I already talked a little bit about that, but the p tag is designed to be a paragraph tag. It's something that you should really put on every single paragraph, obviously, that you do. And so I'm going to put, hello, this is my first website or something. And what this allows us to do is it allows us to be able to have this kind of categorization of content. And then I'm going to put, this is my, if I could type, there we go. All right, so we just have this here. And this content here is designed specifically to be able to have single little blocks, like I was talking about, a block element. Now I'll show you when we actually file, save, and what we can do is we can actually open this in, let's see, file, save as. I'm going to have to open it up here. I'm going to just save it on the desktop, and then I'm going to open this. Whoops, that's not it. This is it right here. What we're going to do is we're going to open this with my Firefox that I already have open here. And you can see here, we have a few words here that are displayed. You'll notice that this break here happens. This is the block element that I'm talking about. That is going to happen every time that you put the P tag in, unless you use something like CSS or attributes to tell it not to. We'll get into that a little bit later, but just understand that P is designed by default as a block element. That ensures that secondary thing, or secondary line break that occurs. Now we're going to go over here and talk a little bit about another tag, the heading tag. Now the heading tag is denoted by an H and a number, any digit. You can have H1 and it goes all the way down through H9. And I'm just going to put a few headings here so you can just get an idea, but it's pretty much just like you would think it is. It's just designed to be a tag that we can use to put on all headings of our on our websites. This allows us to have a custom font a custom size for each one. I'm just going to give you a little bit of a demonstration of these things, so that way we can actually have things done. Now, if I save this, Control S, and I bring this up right over here, I can just press F5 and have it come up, and you can see here it's nice and big bolded. It's got some extra paragraph, or excuse me, I forget what they're called, but it's got a bit more space in between each line, and it's obviously a much larger size as things goes up. Now you'll notice H1, 2, 3 gets smaller. H1, 2, and 3. This goes all the way down to 6, which if we make, or excuse me, H9. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, it goes down to H6. And if we save this and refresh over here, you can see very, very small there, but it's still a heading that we can actually use. It's something that's extremely important and obviously useful. Every single website has it because you always have headings that you want to look at. Then we're going to also move in and talk about the break line tab. Now, very often we'll have lots and lots of text, and on that website, or on that website, there are going to be times in which we want to have a page break occur. Now, if I want my page break to occur, what am I doing? There we go. All right, we can see that we want a page break right here. This is what I want. I want this to be on the secondary line. I can just put a little nice BR tag right in there, and when I don't have to necessarily have it on another line, but when I save this and go over here and refresh, you'll see, boom, it comes down to another line right here, and it's not like a full full line skip like you would in a paragraph. It's just a single line page break right there, which is really, really nice to be able to do. On top of that, there's also some other tags that we talked about just a few minutes ago. I'm going to put in just a little bit of text here. And we will test a few other things out, just as some basic things. Now, this tag is used to bold things, obviously, as I have already said several times. This tag here, the I, is used to italicize things. And this tag here is used to underline things. Now, there are a lot of tags like these. There are many, many more tags like these. This is the only time I'll ever spend any real time on this, because the majority of this kind of go over here, we can see like its effect is right there. It's very clear. But the majority of times we don't actually want to use these tags, not necessarily in the HTML. Because if you're trying to influence the text, it makes a lot more sense to do it inside of CSS. CSS is Cascading Style Sheets. It's a different language, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But this can be nice just for some basic, quick something that you want to do if you want to just have something made very fast, very easy, and not have to put any effort or time in there. This can be an extra tag that you can add and just kind of get that in there. And you can see the impacts are there. There are a whole host of tags like this that you can find, but this is the only time that I'll really go over those. All right, so now that we've talked about all of these things, I'm going to go into the third part of this little video, which is we're going to talk about tag attributes for just a little bit. Now, attributes are something that we have yet to see here, and I'm going to give you an example of this. Let's say I wanted to display an image. All right, well, the tag name here is img. That's what it would look like. But the problem is the computer obviously doesn't know where your image is, and nor does it know what image is out of the millions of them. So we need an attribute to tell the computer extra information about this tag. There are a whole host of these attributes that are available, but to find the image, we use src. That is source. We can tell the computer to find the image on our own computer. Now, if we just go in there and actually just write like the name or something, let's say I've got an image here. I'm going to find a quick image in my pictures. Yeah, we'll go in the sample pictures. Yes, let's say that I wanted to have this image here. I'm going to put it right next to this. I don't necessarily have to tell the computer a path name. I have to only tell it, since it's on the same folder structure, since it's in the same place, I only have to tell it that this, tell the computer that this named is chrysanthemum dot, let's see, what type of file is it? Oops. We'll quickly figure that out. All right, so it's a JPEG here. All right, so we're going to just write this down. And so we'll write chrysanthemum. I copied and pasted that because that's a huge word that I'm going to totally misspell. And then we put a .jpeg, the file extension. Always remember to have that, because if you don't have that, obviously not going to work. You only need the file name if it is not in a folder structure. All right, so now we're going to save here. And then we're going to refresh over here. And there's our nice, beautiful picture. It's a nice big red flower. But that's not always going to be useful, because very often what you're going to do is you're going to have thousands of files that go on to the really complex big websites. So you don't want to have them all in one single way. You want to be able to organize them. So what we do is we put them inside of a folder structure. So let's say I'm going to put this in a new folder and just do demo folder. And then I'm going to put chrysanthemum inside of here. Since that is inside of that folder, it is not going to be able to tell where that image is. So what we need to do is we need to tell the computer that it needs to obviously go down an image, or excuse me, go down a folder. So we take the name that is right here, demo folder, and then we put it in front of chrysanthemum, and then we put a slash right there. That's what we do. And that tells it, I'm actually gonna, and also spaces are not allowed. We can't have spaces. So that would not work quite well. So we put that there. And that's going to work. So it's going to tell the computer to go into the file demo folder and then find the picture chrysanthemum.jpg. If you wanted to go up one folder, let's say, you know, I wanted to go, we were to switch the roles here. Let's say I take the chrysanthemum out and I put it out here, and I have the hello world file in there, which is our little document that we were looking at. Then we need to, oh, oops, yeah, obviously. So I'm going to file, save as. I'm going to save it in there, because if you're moving the file that you're actually editing, that becomes a problem, because I'm so genius. All right, so there we go. We're saving this. Yes, I want to replace it. Now, this won't work because we're inside of the demo folder. What we want to do here is we want to go up a folder. In order to do that, we just put a ... and that tells the computer to go up one. And it's always in reference to your original hello world folder, you know, your original file. Wherever you put that, you have to tell the path name. Now I can also refresh, and you can see our little image is also there as well. Now this is an attribute. This attribute here gives that information, and it tells the computer how to work there. Now there are other forms of attributions as well. Let's say the title attribution. Now, title attribution ensures that it's largely for browsers in a very big way, or excuse me, not for browsers, largely for search engines. In a very big way, it gives these search engines a way to categorize and understand what this is. So we'll say a beautiful flower. So that's going to be our title here. We can save this, and it doesn't have a huge impact on this image. Oops, yeah. Yes, because that is moved originally. So we're going to go Firefox. And yes, you can see here, this doesn't have a huge image, but you can see that little title there that pops up. That is like a little tooltip it kind of gives. And that can be useful in instances, but more often than not, what you're going to do is you're going to have it for the browsers. Another also important, excuse me, for the search engines, and I keep screwing those up. Another thing that you're going to also want to incorporate because of search engines, because obviously you want your page to be found, you need alternative text. Now, alternative text ensures that, let's say that your picture doesn't load for a long time. We want to put something there, so we'll just say, you know, a flower. That alternative text becomes something that appears as the image is loading in. If it doesn't load in fast enough, that text will appear while you're kind of waiting for it, which can be very nice for people on a slow internet connection. These kind of attributes are something that you need to take into account and need to understand if you're planning to do any kind of HTML. They're designed to modify the original tag, and they're very useful and offer a whole host of functionality that can be very, very, very cool. Another thing that I'm going to talk about really quick is going to be the A tag. The A tag allows for a link to be created, but in order for it actually to have any real impact, we have to have an href here, which is, you know, the href. This allows us to go to places. We can go to other documents, and it allows us to be able to put in links in our things. However, if you do just like I've done it here, it won't actually show anything. I'm going to put a number symbol. This is a universal just placeholder so that you don't have an error, but it's designed to just hold it there. So we'll put the pound sign there. But if you just have this link will not really appear. What you need in order for that link to occur is you need to have actually text or an image or something in between. So I'm going to cut this here, and I'm going to put this above my image to make this an actual link here. Now I'm going to go over here. Whoops, cancel. I'm going to go over here, refresh this page, and you can see now I can click on this link. It acts like a link. You can see my browser is actually recognizing that as a link, and I can't go anywhere right now because I have that pound sign number symbol there, but it's useful for being able to do that. Now you can see that this can be anything. I could make the entire website a link to, you know, if I move it up here, now I can save this, refresh over here, and now the entire website is all a link. You'll also notice how it modified the text as well. It modifies that to the default, you know, blue and underlined stuffs. If we're going to do an actual link to somewhere, we can also put that in as well. Let's say I'm actually going to go, we're going to go to google.com here real quick. And let's say I want to put a link to Google. I can just click this here, paste that in there, and boom, whoops, I can actually select the correct place. Yes, I can paste that in there, and you can see, look, that link is there. Now if I go to my original document, and I save this, and I go over here, and I refresh it, I click on this, and boom, it takes me to Google. This can happen to any type of document, or it can go anywhere that you want. It can go to any link that you want. You can also go to links that are inside of, you know, let's say I were to create another document that's in here. It's referenced the same way that I was talking about earlier. So I'm going to create another little folder real quick. It'll look, we'll just do some copying here. We'll paste this file, save as, yes, and this will be test2 is what we'll call it. And we'll just we'll delete this stuff in interior stuff, and we'll just put some text. Yes, all right, so this is that. And we're gonna save this. Oh shoot, I need to save it as a HTML document, obviously. I saved it as a text accidentally. Yes, so you can see here, this is another document. I'm gonna close this out. And you'll see in the original file structure, here it is. Here's test2, here's hello world. Now if I want to do a link to that, you don't do a link with like, all of this extra, http.www. You don't put that. What you do put is you put the image, or excuse me, the path name, like you would the same way with the image that we talked about earlier. So here I called it test2. So since it's in the same exact place and same exact folder, I'm going to call it test2 and put .html, which is the file extension. That's the type of file it is. Now I can save this, and I can go over here to my original website. I can refresh that, and you can see it's all nice and refreshed. I click on this, and here is my other document. This is the other document that you would reference. That same sort of thing, if you put it on a website, it operates the same thing for all of the files that you create. That's what you're going to put there. And that's kind of the way, an introduction to these attributes. I hope that's been helpful. I think that's where I'm going to cut it off here. Hopefully I'll see you guys in episode 3, and congratulations, you guys are now in the loop.